Okay, here with Addy Ads, another day. Gosh.
Good afternoon, George.
Good afternoon. We've got violence all over the place. We've got, of course, you covered the Harrison Deal explosion. You covered the suicide of Officer Sullivan in Georgia.
Yep, and you did follow-ups to both of those.
Follow-ups to both of those, and now we had last night one of your key contacts, unfortunately, with shots fired into her house. Two children in the house at the time, small children. We have the explosion in Nashville, and they seem to be trying to make that into a white supremacist thing. So there's a lot to talk about. Why don't we start off with your contact you spent so much time with, and I met her as well, getting her house shot. That you would think that this would be a bigger story. Election whistleblower shot at, sort of like, I don't know, when the 3 kids were bombed in Alabama in 1963 during the elections. That was a big story.
Yeah.
I think this would be bigger than Nashville, but tell us this story to make sure we get it out there.
Right, so 11:15 p.m. on Christmas Day, same day as the Nashville bombing. A source of ours and one of my sources in Atlanta, while they were at home, they were on the receiving end of a drive-by shooting. 3 or 4 bullet holes in the house. Appeared to be a small revolver, small caliber weapon that was used, likely a revolver, as no discharge casings were found. And it's quite unfortunate that these people have no qualms with putting women and children in the line of fire. It really shows you what these people are willing to do to get their message across and get their point across.
But my point here is, this is a person who was doing her, she just did an hour-and-a-half interview with her and you, and a couple of interviews before that with us, just expressing, hey, there's fraud. And she's shot at, no coverage, okay? But some idiot in Nashville, who we don't even know who it is blanket coverage. And you would think, well, it's an explosion. That's why it didn't get as much coverage as a drive-by shooting. But you covered also the Harrison Deal murder, or whatever that was, that gigantic explosion, about the same size as the Nashville. No coverage. People say, well, didn't involve police officers. Well, yes, it did. The suicide or strange death of James Sullivan, who may have been investigating the Harrison Deal explosion.
Yep.
Didn't get any coverage. All 3 in Georgia. Trump tweets out about Georgia. All of a sudden, there's an explosion, not in Georgia, but in Nashville. You see, maybe it almost seems like a diversion.
Yeah, I think so too. And we talked about the Trump aspect of it too, where what the media is focused on, it's really the microscope, right? And if Trump doesn't say something, it makes him look like a jerk if he's not addressing the Nashville bombing. And Georgia to follow up at Pooler Parkway on not only Harrison Deal's death, but O'Sullivan's as well at the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. They came out on their Facebook page and said that people shouldn't be spreading false rumors, which I found interesting, because bureaus of investigation tend to be mum's the word about pretty much everything. Even the FBI, for example, with this Nashville explosion, they said initially we don't know whether it was an intentional or not, and obviously everybody could see that it was from the get-go.
Yeah, so and then the server, it does seem like the server snatched, because all of the communication going back and forth, we're not saying Ron Raffensperger's related, but Raffensperger is an unusual name. He is with a company called Huawei. Huawei is already been cited for developing routers that have backdoors, developing chips that have backdoors. They also have chips in the Dominion machines. They have chips in the Dominion modems. There's traffic going back and forth. Patrick Burns says there's traffic going back and forth between China and Atlanta. We don't know if that's Huawei or not, but it's just odd that Raffensperger is also the Secretary of State where those Dominion machines are. And I think that's the part where people go, where's the Georgia Bureau of Investigation on this? Where are the FBI on this? You would think this is foreign interference.
Yeah, and an important addendum too to the Deal incident, which I didn't mention so far in this broadcast, was Governor Kemp's calling for a signature audit right before that in the same week. So you kind of see how one event can or maybe did lead to the other. Well, Sullivan's death the following Monday, George following up that week, and now on Christmas Day, not only the Nashville bombing, but a drive-by shooting on an election whistleblower as well. And that's not to say we don't know that there are other operations that went in conjunction with those two as well. And we have supporters of Georgia's who are in Knoxville and within 50 miles of Nashville, and they still don't have power as of about 2 hours ago.
So if they were moving servers, this is the perfect time. It's a dark period, a black out, and so they can move. Things aren't being pinged anymore.
A surveillance black hole.
Yeah, surveillance black hole, and these servers. We have AT&T people saying we can't get to the servers. The FBI won't let us into the crime scene. So it does sort of look like, hey, we can hang this on this guy named Anthony Quinn. Warner, and we can say he's a 5G tinfoil hat, and it gives us the perfect chance to get the servers. The amazing part about this Anthony Quinn Warner is hardly any social media footprint, which is very unusual for somebody who's lived 62 years. I mean, I've got a lot out there on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, and just hardly anything, not even a picture of this guy.
It's close to say it's close to impossible to stay invisible on the internet. And George did a bit of a deep dive into this guy too, and I think only Heavy.com mentioned that as well.
And there's just a high school picture, which is just very odd. It just seems like it wouldn't be something that I would question unless it was of the timing. Here comes 6 Trump tweets trying to put the focus on Georgia. All of a sudden, we have the shooting into the house in Georgia. All of us, we've already had the suspicious suicide. We've already had the Harrison Beale explosion.
And I think Lenox Mall shootings as well.
Yeah, you covered the Lenox Mall shootings, which was in a fancy area of Atlanta, the
Yep.
Buckhead.
In Buckhead, one of the richest counties in the nation, I think top 3. And at their nice mall there, very nice mall. I went into it the next day, followed up. I was taking a nap, and Christian Gray texted me when I woke up. I saw, he's like, you okay? There's a shooting right by you at Lenox Mall, just a stone's throw away. I did a follow-up the next day. I tried to do some reporting there. I got thrown out by police. Police everywhere in the mall.
So this is the thing, is the intimidation is okay after the election. The protection of the people that night of the election, no, none. But now, super high security, now the intimidation, now the shootings, now the explosions. And now it's our fault. It's the fault of somehow some guy who didn't like 5G. It just all seems very fishy to me. I think this is a server snatch. This feels like an operation. Not having any photos of the guy since high school, to me, is the thing that doesn't make any sense. And the fact he gives his house to a production company, or a young woman working in a production company in Los Angeles, that also just doesn't seem right.
First responders showed up almost immediately after the explosion. It seemed almost right before it, and the reason or excuse for that was gunshots or shots fired. And I only saw the one guy, I think it was CBS or MSNBC, saying he heard gunshots. Whereas, for example, with the Pooler Parkway explosion with Harrison Beale, there was multiple people independent of each other posting on Facebook and otherwise. I heard explosions. I heard multiple explosions. What happened? And now you only get the one guy in a big, highly populated city like Nashville claiming shots fired.
And the other one that's spontaneous like that was the people saying 3 explosions. A lot of the witnesses that were photographed quickly, and this is the Dan Hopsker rule of news gathering, you got to get there quick before they can change the narrative. 3 explosions, and there was 2 other cars that seemed to have exploded. So you were saying that these explosions can be timed in such a way to have an amplifying wave effect?
Yeah, I was looking at the documentation last night after we got done with our evening writing shift, and just looking at the video footage, it looked like there was kind of similar to the Deal explosion, actually 2 cars in addition to the van that could be used as accelerants or extensions of the main trigger.
Sort of a chain reaction type
exactly.
of thing. Yeah, hooked together. So we'll keep covering these stories. It just seems like intimidation and violence is being used all over the place, and diversion. And also, it seems like things are happening beneath the ground that we might not be aware of. I think you're going to have a whole bunch of new servers at that AT&T facility, and I think they're going to be moved somewhere else. And that just happens to be the AT&T facility that was listing the night of the election of traffic between China and Georgia, and between Georgia and Serbia, places like Serbia and places like Iran. So again, like you said yesterday, the FBI is on the case. We'll never know what happened.
Yeah, and we've seen now election whistleblowers getting shot at, judges getting shot at earlier this year with regards to the Epstein Deutsche Bank case and explosions. So, this is definitely a year of political turmoil in our country, George.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you, Addy Ads. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Stay frosty.